This 4th of July holiday, I have one question for you. Are you making your forefathers proud? Guys, Rack here. Today we're going to be talking about building out your Minuteman AR15. This is a topic I think is becoming more and more timely, especially in our day and age. And it's something that I've been really passionate about getting people into over the last few years. As I've said before, I worked in the firearm industry for a year, and I set many a person up with their first AR-15 in a way that I think was conducive for them to defend not only themselves, but their home and their family as well. There's three basic principles I think should go into your AR-15. That is a good foundation, obviously. Secondly, being a good optic system, and third, being a good light system. Everything else, in my opinion, comes down to personal preference. So, that being said, let's get into my build. We'll talk about some of the things that I think you should do, some of the things that might be a little extra, and some of the things that, some of the products I recommend, basically, for you to get started. So this rifle started out as a very basic, bare-bones AR-556 from Ruger. Now, I will say if you are in an intermediate budget range, so maybe up to about $1,200, this is the rifle I would recommend. This is a solid base. They come in a lot of different versions. There's an MPR version, the multi-purpose rifle. That's an 18-inch rifle. That would be more suited for longer distance shooting, so if you live like out on the plains or in the mountains, that might be a good option. This was the carbine version, 16-incher with a front triangle sight block, which I actually think is kind of one of the ways to go personally. If you're using magnified optics, usually your focal plane doesn't see that. And if you're using a red dot, you can co-witness very easily with a flip up in the back. So don't be afraid to get something with like an old school front sight post like this. But the point is, when buying your first rifle, go for simple and go for reliable. One of the options I offer to people a lot when they say their budget's up to about $1,000 is a Palmetto State Armory. I think that is a great way to go. You could even go with one of their AKs if you're really feeling interesting. Just remember that there's going to be a lot less support in terms of aftermarket parts than for an AR-15. So that's kind of a detriment that comes with buying AKs, especially in the United States. So we'll stick with ARs for this argument. Beyond Ruger and Palmetto, Radicals are a decent option if you're really, really trying to scrape by. But I think it would be more conducive for you to save up a little bit more money, buy something in the realm of a Palmetto or a Ruger, and spend the rest of the money for, like, once again, let's say you have $1,000 on a good optic and ammo. If you're going a little higher in a price range, I think a good option could be something like a Springfield Saint. You either have the normal Saint or the Saint Victor. I sold a lot of Saint Victors to people. It's an 18-inch, very modern style AR-15 with a good precision trigger and good parts within. It's something that would be a little less room to grow because you don't have as much room to upgrade, in my opinion. But if paired with a good optic, it could be a rifle that you really don't need to upgrade much going into the future. Another good option at that point is to build out a parts kit and use an Aero Precision lower and a BCM upper. That's kind of the classic every peon on Reddit build that you see. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those work. But I think you can get more capable for cheaper. So buying like a Ruger MPR or a St. Victor, in my opinion, would be a better way to go. And if you want to spend more, you can get BCMs and Daniel defenses and whatever you want to get. Just remember that the more money you spend doesn't necessarily mean the better the rifle is going to be. At the end of the day, your rifle is only going to be as good as the person behind it. So, whatever you buy, just make sure you have enough money to spend on ammo to train with, spend on range time, and spend on the peripherals you'll need to make sure your rifle is functional. Going from there, we'll talk about some parts on mine that I think are kind of standard for a rifle of this style. One of which, just starting at the tip, is an A2 birdcage. There's a lot of different muzzle brakes out there on the market, but I think the A2 is the best way to go in terms of an all-purpose rifle. You might argue, hey, maybe I want to put a silencer on my rifle, and that's cool. There's silencers that are made for A2 bird cages nowadays. If you really must, you can change out your muzzle device. I don't think it's a do or die thing, but I think the A2 is the best way to go, and you save money. It's already on most rifles that are out there. As I said, one of the foundations of a good rifle is your light. There's a lot of great options out there, but they tend to be a little expensive. On the budget end of things, you have Streamlight. Streamlights are rugged, reliable. I've had this thing for 3 years. I beat the shit out of it, and it still works great. Has a nice tape pad on the top. Fastens to the rifle. Works great. They just came out with the Gen 2 version of this. It's even better. I might get the butt plate. I can't remember flashlight parts all of a sudden, but I might get the tail switch and the butt plate from that and put it on this one because it has like an unpluggable part and it's a little nicer. But the point is, invest in a good, reliable flashlight, but then again, you don't have to invest that much. I think another good option is like an Inforce. Those are nice. I'm actually thinking about getting one of those soon for my rack out and my shotgun. So invest in good lights for sure. Keeping with talking about my rifle going backwards as I peeled strands off of my hockey tape that's fraying all of a sudden. Let's talk about optics. I have an Aimpoint Patrol on this thing. That kind of came about because I went through several different optics solutions, got tired. Let's talk about optics actually really quick. The very first optic I had on this rifle was a Seymour Railway. Those are great for subguns and pistol shooting, but they're not great for ARs. I grew out of that very quickly. I switched to a Hollow Sun 503. If it's not the 503, I'll put up what it actually was. But switched to a Hollow Sun with a magnifier combo. I liked it for a year, and then I wanted more range. And I switched to a budget LPVO from Monstrum, and it worked great. It worked at range. I got great groups with it. The problem became, it being such a cheap LPVO, the damn thing broke on me. So I finally was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to spend the money and stop getting optics, and I got an Aimpoint Patrol. You'll recognize this from all the Black Hawk Down and Blood Diamond clone builds. It's like a Comp M4 that we have at home when you ask Mom for a Comp M4. It's an Aimpoint still, like it's an actual Aimpoint, but it's not like truly a Comp M4. That being said, I think for the civilian market, you don't need a Comp M4 for $900. Spend $400 on this. That also being said, for your first rifle, I wouldn't get this. This is kind of something you graduate up to. It's not necessarily something I would choose right away. I think for your basic first rifle build, you could do little better than like a full circle micro dot, something like a Sig Romeo. There's some Hollow Suns or Vortexes that'd be a good choice, but something nice and simple that you can just get eyes down range with, put a dot on target, and go nuts. That is the best way to go for your first optic. And especially on that train of thought, you can get magnifiers for those and shoot further out. It's just a good versatile place to start. And if you want to explore more and get an LPVO or go crazy, go for it. That's up to you. All right, moving further back on this guy, we'll kind of talk about this whole thing going on. I will say, if you have a red dot on your rifle, you should have some sort of backup irons on it. Ta-da. That's actually the iron that came with this rifle. It even has a little Ruger logo on it. A lot of rifles come with Magpul M-buses. That's great. They work great. I just posted a video about some budget M-bus sights I got off Amazon that I put on the rack out. Seek out that video on my TikTok if you come across this video completely naked from my stuff. Look up my TikTok. There should be a link tree in my bio. The point is, you can get budget M-bus sights that work great for fractions of what actual Magpul stuff costs or what, metal crazy nice stuff costs. So that's a place where you can save a little money, but definitely have backups of some sort. As I said, co-witnessing with your red dot or having the ability to just shoot with irons is incredibly important, because in the weird eventuality that maybe your red dot goes out, you're not just stuck up shit creek. You have something to use in that scenario. I also, something I recommend maybe after you've had your AR for a couple years, like I did, is upgrading your trigger. I have a Timney Impact trigger here. I've talked about it on my pages before. It's a good, just like really clean breaking trigger. Doesn't totally break the bank. It's not the cheapest thing you can get. There's definitely cheaper. Like LaRue's are cheaper. They're great. Um, I just felt like the Timney would work better for me, but LaRue's are fine. So you can kind of work with your budget on that a little bit. Another cheap, better than mil-spec trigger would be like the Palmetto enhanced trigger. Those are great. I would still choose my Timney over those, but they're great. They work. So if you're on a tight budget and you want to build out a really fancy AR, those are a couple good options if you don't want to get like a total drop-in trigger. I would steer clear of Rise armament triggers. I've heard they have had problems in the past. Maybe they fixed them. Rise does make some good stuff. I had one of their charge handles forever, but their triggers, I'm just not too sure about them. And then other than that, I think the other big thing that I would replace is your furniture beyond like your foregrip and stuff. Um, your pistol grip, there's a lot of options out there. Magpul, in my opinion, makes the best that I've found. I might try to experiment a little bit more with some other options. Some people like more of a vertical grip. That's something I'm going to try soon. Buttstocks are another thing. Think of the things that are going to interface with your body. Buttstock, pistol grip, and we'll get to the other thing here in a second. I consider the B5 SOT mod to be the standard what you get for your buttstock. It's called the Bravo now. It was called the SOT mod Lite when I got this one. But it's just simple, has nice cheek weld, it's light, and it's durable. It's a solid piece of polymer. There's a reason they've been using those things since early GWAD. It's because they work. If you'll notice, actually, this has kind of turned into like a SOT mod style rifle, which I know that's archaic. People will roast me for it. They'll say, whoa, where's your free float? And it's like, this shit's been working. This stuff has been popping people since the early 2000s. I mean, you can't go wrong. The other place where your body interfaces with your rifle is your foregrip. I do a vertical foregrip. It works best for my hands. I've thought about going angled, and I don't know, I like the feel of this better. I can C-clamp over, get on my light, and I feel really stable pulling back into my shoulder. I don't have my lens cap open, sorry. I feel really stable pulling back in my shoulder and aiming with a vertical. You also have some utility where you have leverage when you're striking, perhaps, doing a little gun fu, if you will. You can also brace against surfaces, like I've braced against tables with this grip before, and it gives you a nice stable point to shoot out. So vertical foregrips are, in my opinion, the way to go. Angle foregrips are fine if that's what you're into. Those become a little more popular on like thinner free-floating handguards, so that might be kind of where that comes into play for me. But pick the foregrip that works for you, that you like. Don't do it because someone told you to. I went through like 3 on this gun before I found the one I liked. Some people have really stubby, tiny ones, whatever. So experiment a little bit with that. They're not crazy expensive, so you can kind of get away with doing that. Beyond that, guys, that kind of wraps it up. I didn't want to make this too crazy long. I made an iteration of this video that took me hours to shoot, and I was like, that's too much. Make it simple. This is something that doesn't need to be belabored. It's been talked about before. But this is just, in my opinion, what your baseline should be as someone who considers themselves to be a concerned citizen. Someone who theoretically would use this to defend themselves and their property and those around them if the need arose. At the end of the day, guys, don't go out and try to be a hero. Don't be one of those guys that thinks they're a sheepdog. Protect you and yours. Be a good citizen. Don't be more than what you're called to be. I'm trying to kind of temper expectations. I feel like there's a lot of people that, think that there's some sort of big lofty cause, or They're I don't know. There's a lot of grandeur when it comes to this kind of topic. Preparedness ARs. And I'm just being real with you guys. I mean, at the end of the day, you have people that you need to take care of, and you have yourself to take care of in your community. Those should come first above all else. Buying an AR-15 is something that is a responsibility. You make the responsibility for yourself to train with it, to get better with it, to keep its parts maintained and updated when you buy this rifle. And that's a responsibility that shouldn't be taken lightly. I feel like it is taken lightly by a lot of people that buy these, judging by the ones that I sold to people. And that's something you can't really help when you're selling them. But if you're taking the advice from me, that's what I tell you to do is, buy this and work with it. It should never sit in your safe for more than a couple months at a time. You should never see dust collecting on these things, right? So be responsible with it, work with it, and be the best citizen you can be with these things. This is a right that's being attacked constantly, the right to defend ourselves with near-peer equipment. That's a right that our founding fathers included in the Bill of Rights for a reason. They fought the British with what they were able to get on their civilian market, whether it be muskets, pistols, swords, cannons. Cannons were on the civilian market. I mean, any merchantman ship would have a pretty healthy assortment of cannons on it. Anyways, history lesson aside, our founding fathers knew this was an important right for us to be able to keep and own firearms to defend ourselves from threats, foreign and domestic, whatever those may be. My forefathers fought in the Revolutionary War, one of which under General Washington. It's a right that they fought and died for. It's a right that is crucial to our continued freedom as a society. And it's one that's under attack from both sides of the political spectrum, to be frank. And some people might not like that I say that, but it's true. So having the ability to exercise that right in a responsible and expedient manner is very important. I think that includes being able to use and own AR-15s. It's an important right that we have for me to be able to sit here and hold this in my hands and say this is mine. And it should be protected and it should be maintained responsibly by all of us. And what that looks like is training and being educated. That all being said, guys, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Thank you so much for watching. This is a video that means a lot to me. I will get this out in the morning as soon as I can for 4th of July. Have a happy and safe 4th. Celebrate what our founding fathers fought and died for. Get yourself into a good AR-15 if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.